Hi, everyone. This is Mindy Eggen for Taylored Expressions, and I'm excited to share with you inspiration using the brand new Tombstone Treats kit. I'll be creating a treat box showing you how to put it together and then also how to use these products in a card. Now, let's take a look at some of the products I'll be using today, starting with my ink. So, I have Oreo ink, sugar cube, Brussels sprout, and kiwi, then cilantro. I also have Concord grape, gumball, Dijon, and banana cream pie. I'll be using my blending brushes in a variety of color to match my inks. I also have an anti-static powder tool, some liquid glue, my teal tape. I'm going to be using some acrylic blocks, Post-it tape, my Taylored Expressions white embossing powder, my Scotch tape runner. I also have a couple pairs of scissors, my trusty tweezers. I have my little water droplet bottle and some bleed-proof white splatter. I have some double-sided tape. I also have a repositionable tape and my ink stand, and then some foam strips. I have my Tombstone Treats kit, Stand Alive stamp and die set, the Moonlight stencil, Set the Scene grass stencil, and Subway tile stencil. For cardstock, I have poppy seed, lime zest, and sugar cube, and also my VersaFine Clear ink. A quick look at some of the supplies in the Tombstone Treats kit is first this adorable little zipper bag. Then we have the Treats to Die For stamp set. This is to decorate your tombstone, so we have a lot of fun sentiments on there to go with that. There is also the Treats and Trinket box. So you're getting a set of 20 pre-cut treats and trinket boxes. These are already die cut and scored for you out of black licorice cardstock. And then we have two companion die sets. This is the Creepy Companions, which has the ghost and the crow. There's also a skull. And then we have some additional elements in the point of no return. So you have your tombstones and the dies for the labels on the tombstones. Additional products you can pick up outside of the kit are the Foil It Dead to Me. So you can foil these and then ink blend over the top. You can add these on top of your tombstones. There's also the Treats and Trinket die. So if you want to create some more outside of the kit, you can pick up that die separately or some additional pre-cut boxes. To assemble your box, take one of your pre-cut pieces out of your kit and just fold along all of those scored lines. This is die cut out of black licorice cardstock. On one side, you're going to see that there is a notch, and that can be where your flap is going to go if you want that to be the front or the back of your design. Next, I'm going to figure out where the bottom of the box is, and I am going to add double-sided adhesive to the side panel and also those bottom flaps. We don't want to add any to the top because that will seal your box shut. We want to make it easy for them to open and receive their treats. Once I have that double-sided adhesive down, I can start removing the backing of that or that release paper and then just tucking that in to fold up my box. I can just press that together to seal it, or you can reinforce it with a bone folder. So once we seal up this front panel here, this is going to be the front of our box. You'll see that notch that is in there, and that's just so it helps them open the trinket box. And the flap will just tuck in like that. Super cute and easy to assemble. These will fit lots of little candies, or even if you want to put some little gems or treats in here, maybe some money if you want to have a surprise for the recipient. Now I'm going to start decorating some of my tombstones to put on the front or the back of the box. So I'm starting out with the tombstone piece that I'm going to die cut out of poppy seed cardstock, and then also that front part, which is going to go on my tombstone out of lime zest. Now I want to add a little bit of interest to these and just kind of deepen them up, make them a little spooky. So I'm adding a repositionable tape to the back of my tombstone. That's going to hold that in place for me on my glass work surface. And then I'm taking the Subway tile stencil. I'm going to line that up straight across the front of my tombstone and hold that in place with some teal tape. I'm going to take Oreo ink with my black handled blending brush, and I'm going to add just a little bit of black ink over that stencil, just coming in from the side a little bit and down in the corner. I'm not going in very far because I wanted this to be very subtle. Then I can lift up the stencil. That came out perfect because some of it's going to be covered up by the kind of label that we're going to place on the top. But I am going to go around the outer edge of my tombstone with that black ink to really help intensify that spooky feeling. Once all of my edges are ink blended and it has that nice spooky feel to it, I'm going to bring it over to a splatter box and I am going to add splatters using my bleed proof white ink. I added a couple drops of water, put that on an acrylic block, and I'm going to splatter that onto my tombstone. Next, I'm going to add some coloring to my label that's going to go on top of the tombstone. So I'm taking a mini blending brush and my cilantro ink, and I'm just going to go around the outer edge of that to deepen the color. I'm going to then pick out a sentiment off of the Treats to Die For stamp set. I'm going to place this down onto my work surface and pick it up with an acrylic block. I found it a little easier to do it this way versus adding it to a stamping tool. So then I'm going to bring out my VersaFine ink. This is a nice black pigment ink and it stamps really well the first time around, so I don't have to worry about trying to line that back up. And I'm going to stamp that down onto my little label. I can then take some foam squares. I'm going to add it behind this label piece. I'll remove the backing of my foam squares and I'm going to add this to the front of my tombstone. I'm also going to take some foam strips and I added them to the actual back side of the treat box. So the notch for the treat box is on the other side. I added the foam strips on the front there, and then I'm taking the tombstone and I found it easiest to stand this up so that way the bottom of my tombstone is flush with the bottom of my treat box. Then you'll be able to see when I flip it over, we have the notch in the back, so it's easy for them to open that up and receive their treats. I'm going to add some additional decorations to this. You can use the dies that come in the kit, but I decided to bring out the Stayin' Alive stamp set with these cute little skeletons. So I'm placing a couple down onto some black licorice cardstock in my Misty. I'm going to prep the cardstock with an anti-static powder tool. And then to get some really amazing embossed results, I am going to ink up my skeletons using the sugar cube ink. Once I have them inked up really well, I'm going to stamp them down onto my cardstock, and then I'm going to sprinkle on some white embossing powder. I'm going to tap off any excess, and then once my heat tool is nice and warmed up, I can melt the embossing powder and I have perfectly white embossed skeletons. I'm going to take the coordinating die for them and hold them down with some teal tape and run them through my die cut machine. Next, I'm going to take some black foam squares and I'm going to trim them in half so that they fit behind the legs of the skeleton. Some of the parts of the skeleton are going to be overlapping the tombstone and some will be hanging off the edge. So I'm only adding the black foam squares to the part of the skeleton that's actually on the tombstone. And now we have this super cute decorated treat box with the tombstone and the dancing skeletons in the front, which fit perfectly around my sentiment. Next, I'm going to share how we can use some of these pieces on the front of a card. So I have a piece of sugar cube cardstock cut to 4¼ by 5½ that I added repositionable tape to and secured it down to my work surface. I'm going to start by setting my scene and I'm using the grass stencil that I'm holding in place with some teal tape. I'm going to start with a light green ink. So this is kiwi ink that I'm going to ink blend on the stencil. If you feel a little safer, you can put some Post-it tape across the top so you don't get any of the green above your stencil line. But I'm just coming in with that kiwi ink first towards the top, and then I'm going to come in with Brussels sprout ink from the bottom, blending up towards the top. So I have a slight gradation of dark and light colors. I'll remove this stencil and then I'm going to bring in the moonlight stencil to add a moon into my background, but I'm going to have it up towards the corner. So once again, I'm going to line that up and hold it in place with the teal tape. Now to my first color I'm going to use for the first layer of the stencil is Banana Cream Pie. So I'm starting in the corner and as I get towards the edge of the stencil, I'm going to get a little lighter handed. I wanted it to have kind of a glowing effect towards the edge. Now before I remove this first layer, I'm coming in with the Dijon ink and adding that to the corner, just kind of having it fade off. I'm going to bring in the next layer of the stencil. I'm going to hold that down again with the teal tape, bring in my Dijon ink, and come in a little bit heavier handed, but get lighter handed as I get towards the edge. And I'm not going to use any more of the layers of the stencil. I'm going to leave it just as that. I'm taking Post-it tape and I'm folding it in half and placing it on the back of my moon mask. And then I'll line this up with the moon so that I can ink blend a sky. I debated on some fun Halloween colors for my background, but ended up going with a traditional dark blue sky. I'm starting out with gumball ink, kind of getting a little light-handed as I get towards the edge of my moon mask because I wanted it to give the appearance of a glow. So it'll be darker around the edges of the cardstock and lighter handed as I get towards that center. Now I'm going to add a little contrast with this using Concord Grape, which is a pretty vibrant color. I did have to tap off quite a bit, so I didn't come in too heavy-handed. I'm going to start from the edge and work my way towards the center, but I'm also going to try and leave that little bit of a halo around the moon. And you can almost see how there's going to be like a beam of light coming down, and that's where I'm going to place my tombstone. Off screen, I went ahead and created my little ghost. So there was a circle die on that set, and that goes behind the ghost to give him a face. I also have a sentiment from the Staying Alive stamp set that I heat embossed in white onto black licorice cardstock. I also have the RIP that I added to the label for my tombstone. And then I have my tombstone done the exact same way as I did for my treat box. So I'm adding my label to the front of my tombstone using a foam square. I'm using foam strips behind my tombstone so I can pop that up on the front of my card, placing that right in that moonbeam light that I created. I also have my ghost and my sentiment that I will be adding foam squares and foam strips to pop that up. So my ghost is going to be kind of coming out from the tombstone there out of the front, and then I will have my sentiment up on top of the moon. And that's going to give us a very quick and easy way to use this tombstone on the front of a card, but also with your trinket boxes, which make just the cutest Halloween treat. And I think those skeletons are a perfect match for it. Thank you so much for joining me today. You can find these products over at tayloredexpressions.com.